All right, well, joining us now are Zygmunt Dzięciołowski, is the founding editor of OpenDemocracy Russia, and Dmitry Balkubets, a political expert. Gentlemen, welcome. Thanks so much for coming to the studio this morning, this beautiful Sunday morning. Yes, it's much appreciated. I will not forget this. All right.
I appreciate your appreciation.
All right. Well, lately we've been seeing a lot of Russian spies coming out of the woodwork all around. A lot in Poland, actually. We had a lot of situations, even all the way out in South America, in Buenos Aires, and a lot of these events are connected. Now, I wonder. I'll ask you, Dmitry, first. Is this because there are more spies, or are they just coming out somehow?
I think it's not something sensation, because a long period from the Soviet Union, the same was here in Poland. For example, 100 ago, here was a big operation from special services, Soviet Union, Trest it's called, when organized some activities against political activist who was opposition opinion against Soviet Union. The same happened now, because Putin and Lukashenko, they planning to control all opposition movement in abroad, because we know that a lot of oppositions now living in abroad, in Poland, Lithuania, in France, in other places, and they continue do the same. That is not problem, because they're using some criminal elements, for example, former prisoners or some ultras from football teams or etc. Fun clubs. I mean, and that is probably also because they understand how to destabilize the situation in Euro Union. That is why they will continue to do it.
All right, Mr. Dzięciołowski, are we seeing the past coming back here to Poland, or has it always been here, but it's just coming out now?
I would say I would agree to some degree with Dmitry. That's a question that Russia is following the same pattern. Maybe it's not exactly the same what it used to be before the war, because that was a question of communist movement, which was a strong and powerful ally of leadership in Moscow of Stalin. But of course, Russia, which is isolated on the international stage, wants to maintain some tools of influence. So first of all, it's a question of manipulating public opinion. And the second question is intelligence gathering. Both things are important. Intelligence gathering, especially during times of war. Here in Poland, this is a serious question, because the city of Rzeszów, with its airport, is a major transportation hub for the...
That's right, and recently we just had this, had the news come out that there was a Polish man who decided, I think out of his own right to pass on information
that he has to help Russian military effort. So this is a question of information gathering. Let's say sources from NATO and sources here in Poland, and then that's logical. I mean, two sides, both sides fighting a war, need to gather intelligence. So it's dangerous. But I think even the more important thing, even the more important question is Russian effort to manipulate politics and public opinion in the free world, I would say. This is the term that has been coined during the Cold War, free world. But let's use it again, because Russia is no longer a free nation, and here we somehow maintain democratic rules. So Russian attempt to manipulate public opinion and the political elite in Western countries is obvious. Let's have an example. We have about 3,500,000 former Soviet citizens living in Germany. It's the third largest ethnic minority in Germany, a very important country for European Union and for NATO. And let's say you have a number of political exile emigres in Germany who are Putin's opponent, but at the same time you have, it's a rough estimate. I don't have sociological data at the moment, but at least half of these people are natural supporters of Putin and his agenda. So these people are
right, and they find themselves in various positions
yes,
in German society.
Yes, of course. Then you have a number of corrupt Western politicians who occupied important executive jobs with Russian oil and gas companies. I don't think it was allowed and it was tolerated before the war. Like we had François Fillon, former French Prime Minister. We have Austrian former Foreign Minister, Mrs. Kastner, and we had former German Chancellor, Mr. Schroeder, occupying the top jobs. I don't think you would have a lot of candidates now, but still the problem of corrupt Western politicians is actual. We have to sort of monitor the situation. To what extent that would be, it's not that they would say, listen, Putin is right, we have to do it this way, but they would rather say, listen, this Ukraine, I mean, their demands are not realistic. We have to tell them to calm down and to sort out, to go to the negotiating table. That's in Putin's favor, this kind of position. So we have to be careful.
Of course, and I mean, a lot of these incidents. For instance, the incident that happened in Vilnius, also the incidents that happened in Buenos Aires and here in Poland. A lot of them, of course, involved money.
Yep.
I mean, as you said, there's a lot of corrupt politicians, but who isn't? For a lot of people, it's not a question of if, it's a question of how much. So while Russia has the money, I mean, it's capable of conducting these operations, isn't it?
Yeah, you're right, and I fully agree because corruption in the European community is important for Putin, because they're using this probably situation, and they bought some politicians, some criminal elements, etc., and they will continue to do it. And it's very important to understand that Putin and Lukashenko will be planning organizing terrorist attack in the Euro Union, not against only Russian or Belarusian opposition leaders, also against European leaders, because they want to destabilize the situation in the Euro Union, especially, for example, during French Olympic Games or some another period. They will doing some probably some criminal activities during elections to European Parliament in June, etc. It's very important also to understand that probably not more than 20% of Russians was in abroad during life, and only 5% of them was in the Euro Union. That is very important to understand how working Russian propaganda inside country. They every day show that in the Euro Union people is very poor, there are a lot of gays, LGBT, etc., and many stereotypes.
That's like social decay, that's a huge theme.
It's also they're using some new technologies to propaganda for European market also, using some problems in economy, in some probably in other spheres in European life, and they're using this for destabilizate situation in some countries during elections, for example, elections campaign. And that is why, for example, we see situation when sometimes some parties, pro-Russian parties in the Euro Union, that is not some problem for Putin, give money for some politics in the Euro Union, and they continue communicate with him.
That's right.
There is one interesting thing that Dmitry mentioned. I would like to follow up on that. That's this question of possible terrorist attacks. I give you an example. You probably, our viewers who are not Russian experts, probably don't remember or don't know the name of General Pavel Sudoplatov. He was high-ranking intelligence officer who in 1938 was sent to the city of Rotterdam in Netherlands and killed one of the leaders of Ukrainian liberation movement, Konovalets. He brought him a box of chocolate and, okay, Sudopłatov during the 90s or during times of perestroika, when Russians suddenly remembers his name, he was one of the Stalin's executioners. He was like one of these black characters from the past, one who helped Stalin to commit his crimes and who went abroad, like they also assassinated Trotsky in Mexico, Stalin's main political rival. Why I'm mentioning Pavel Sudopłatov? I lately watched a Russian television program in which he was presented as a hero. I mean, they recorded his old interview, and he sort of remembered how he sort of carried out his operation, and he was presented to the viewers as one who sort of cared for the Russian power and the influence in the world. In other words, you have to understand and realize that this is also a question of Russian mentality, how they perceive those things. It's no longer forbidden. It's no longer something which is out of our world. It's no longer, now it's possible. They killed the Chechen activists in Berlin, and why shouldn't they do it again?
That's right.
So,
well, they killed Navalny, and Putin just said, well, these things happen.
Navalny is a little bit different question. Navalny was killed inside Russia. But now, I mean, Sudopłatov is an example of Russian intelligence operative who was sent abroad to kill political rival. I mean, from...
That's right. And I'm curious, this system of recruitment. I mean, so obviously you have one operative, but he has to recruit a lot of people from within the country. How does this system work, and how can our governments find these networks?
For example, former prisoners, or for example, some members of clubs, like fan clubs, or for example, some groups of Russian minority or some like Chechenians people, or some in other countries who have special hierarchy system, and it's easy to pay money for them, and they have some control for these people.
Okay, so they find organizations that already have a hierarchy.
Intelligence is more complicated than that. I would say intelligence is a dirty,
well, it certainly is.
dirty thing. So you can use blackmail. You have Russians, let's say, like Russians living in the West, and they have families in Russia. And so it's very easy.
It certainly is.
There's a lot of blackmail, there's a lot of money is at stake. So, of course, we have to watch this. I was recently talking to a Chechen activist here in Warsaw, and there is a number of Chechen people of Chechen origins living in Warsaw. He says they have the feeling they're all very closely monitored by Russian special services. And the same, I talked to somebody in Germany, also the same thing about Chechens. They have the feeling that are closely monitored by the special services from Moscow and from Grozny, capital of Chechnya. It's the task of our special services to monitor emigre communities without over-exaggeration, because there are honest people too. I mean, they are Putin's opponents. But we have to be very careful about this. We have to monitor those groups. We have to follow and then try to...
But we don't want to go on a path of persecuting
the
good...
Yes, but I'm not calling for this.
It's a difficult balancing act.
I'm not calling for this, but we have professionals. I believe we have professionals working with all these political changes in Poland. I have the feeling that maybe they could have done a better job. But at the same time, they are professionals. They know risk groups. They know how to go about their work. So I believe they'd be able to sort of give us some kind of security which we need in those crucial and dangerous times. I also want to say something which I agree with Dmitry very much so. Olympic Games in Paris, that's something...
That's something we have to keep an eye on.
Yes,
one of the key elements of espionage, of course, is sabotage, isn't it?
Every time during Olympic Games, Putin organized some criminal story, like Georgia was, and during Sochi Olympic Games, or some other cases, and that is very important.
This would be Russian doing something. I mean, he has enough strings to pull them out. Let's say with Muslim radicals, with I don't know, ultra lefties. You know, these groups are. There are many around the world.
That's right, and the Russians seem to be infiltrating all the groups.
Yes.
Not just the left, not just the right. A lot of these groups, and now I wonder, us here being a part of the media, or journalists, what can we do? And how much infiltration of the Russian networks can we see within media?
Let's say here in Poland, our media are full of alarmistic messages, calling us to be more careful because we can be infiltrated. I don't think this manipulating public opinion in Poland is a very dangerous thing, because Poles, during hundreds of years of their history, they have built in some kind of anti-Russian gene. It's not very easy to explain to a Pole, to Polish politician or to Polish political activists that working for Russia is good for Poland. That's very difficult. I must say, of course you find some. There are some pro-Russian groups and pro-Russian organizations here in Poland, but to most of Poles, to explain to them that, okay, it would be good for Poland if Russia wins the war with Ukraine, that we have problems with Ukrainians, that's a different thing. But to explain to a Pole that Kremlin's victory would be good for Poland, I don't really sort of believe it's very easy. But we have to be careful. It's easier in the West, because you have natural, like Italy. You go to Italy and people tell you, oh, Putin has his interest in Europe too. You have to understand it. And it's pro-Kremlin.
That's right. Yeah, as a Pole, we can sniff that out.
I agree with you. Yes.
But a question here. I mean, I think that we're seeing a lot of concepts that are being snuck in various places. Perhaps in Poland doesn't work so well, but it does seem to be working in the United States. It seems to be working in Western Europe, and some of these things are actually being repeated by lawmakers. Can you see this happening? And is this happening? Are the Russians planning this, and are they getting away with it?
They're planning, but I think it's very important how to oppose it and what we European countries must do. For example, easy way, open criminal case against Lukashenko, and not only Lukashenko, against persons who, together with Lukashenko, in high level from government or special security service, organizes a campaign against Euro Union, who planning this. Because there are no any criminal case about these people, only against some spies who work in Euro Union, etc. But not against top level of this person. It's very important, and very important to send a message for a light of Russia and Belarus that is not good to organize this criminal story, because every time they travel, not to Euro Union now, but in other countries. But if they will be under so pressure from International Criminal Court, it will be difficult for them to travel in abroad. It's also very, very important.
That's right. In the stories that happened in Vilnius and here in Poland, one of the main recruiters of these assets was actually a Belarusian national.
Yeah.
It wasn't a Russian.
Yeah, but they together, Belarusian and Russian security service, they working together. It's very important to understand that. I also many times received many tweets from Lukashenko regime, and anonymous people wrote to me that they would cut off my head. But it's sometimes I receive this message. It's from anonymous, and that is not some sensation for me, but some people who working or criticize some elements of regime we think it's important to care about personal secure, but also it's very important for governments of European countries to press message for Belarusians and Russian using media on Russian or Belarusian language to send message that here Europeans, politics and people don't want a war, because Lukashenko every day said about war. European Union want a war against Belarus, that Poland want to occupy some Belarusian territory. It's a fake. Every day is this fake propaganda, and Russian propaganda also every time shows that Poland want to cut off part of Ukraine and occupy. It's fake.
It keeps coming back all the time. The same story keeps coming back. It's been being recycled all the time. But the thing is, how do we keep all this stuff from permeating into our media space without closing off our media space? Because it's important. You know, free speech is important for democracy. It's a very difficult situation we find ourselves
in. You know,
in.
this question of occupying part of Ukraine or sort of liberating or incorporating part of former Poland. I don't think it's. I mean, Russians have a lot of it for their own consumption. I mean, they want to create in the Russian mind, Poland is dangerous, and Poland is radical, and Poland is there's plenty of Russophobia in Poland, etc. Well, I think we, to a certain extent, here in Poland, this is very important. We are immune to those things. I mean, at least I would say 90% of our public opinion. Of course, we have to monitor. We have media which react to it. But there's plenty of publications, materials in our media which sort of tell us how Russian and Belarusian propaganda are trying to work. We have to be careful. We have to be sort of alert about this.
Maybe we should send some Polish journalists out to the West to help Western journalists deal with all of this information coming in. But gentlemen...
And help Ukraine to win the war.
Well, and of course that. Gentlemen, a pleasure to have you with us. Thanks so much, and I appreciate it once again. Thanks very much.
Thank you.